I dropped 42 minutes off my half marathon time in only 1 year. And in this video, I'll reveal how any of you watching can do the same with these 3 things that I did and 1 thing that I didn't. You're not allowed to take any days off. Now for you data nerds, at the end of the video, I'll reveal the training paces that I was at and the race results that I'd done prior to running this 120 half marathon. But first, here are a few statistics from this year. 3,300 kilometers run. That's like 9 kilometers per day. 5 pairs of shoes completely thrashed. 1,000 blisters on my feet. That was probably an exaggeration. And hundreds of laps of my local 1K loop. Now a goal like this is not gonna happen overnight. And no, you're not gonna be able to run a 120 half marathon with no training, unless you were born a gazelle or something like that. But you need this first tip to develop the attributes of a gazelle to run really fast half marathon times. This first tip is all about stacking blocks of training. This year, I was lucky enough to stack multiple blocks of training on top of each other without time off or getting injured, which allowed me to continue pushing my fitness along and working towards this half marathon. So here's what my training looked like during this 6-month period. I did an 8-week base building block where I ran at easy and moderate paces and had really short and sharp workouts. After that, I completed another 10-week block focused on 5K and 10K distances before transitioning into this last 10-week block where I focused on this big half marathon PB. And if it wasn't summer in Australia already, I probably would have built on this momentum to go and run a marathon in another 10 weeks or so. But nobody organizes marathons in Australia in summer for obvious reasons. So here's what I did and what you need to do too. Pick a goal race 6 months out from this current time and try to stack a 5K training block and a 10K training block on top of each other before transitioning into this half marathon training block. And I guarantee that by the time you get to this half marathon, your goals would have changed drastically, just like mine did. I'll be attempting a 1:22 half marathon and I don't know how it's gonna go. Now the way that you train for different race distances can vary quite a lot, especially if you're trying to be as specific as possible in your training. Now here are 2 things that you need in every running plan. The first, of course, is easy running. We need that, and lots of it. But the second one is the next tip in this video and was key to pushing my training on in such a short period of time. Threshold training. Well, to understand, we have to dig into a little bit of exercise physiology. When our bodies are moving, we're generating waste products, and our body needs to clear these waste products out of our muscles for us to continue moving. These waste products come from the breaking down of pyruvate into lactate. Now, this is a normal process, and what happens is these waste products are cleared by this into the bloodstream to be processed by the rest of the body. And what's really cool is that we can actually measure how much lactate is being shuttled into the blood by a blood test. Now, for our body to continue to clear this lactate into our blood and process it in the body, we need oxygen and lots of it. This means that we need our heart and our lungs and our circulatory system to be clearing lots of lactate and delivering lots of oxygen. Not too complex yet? Let's keep going. Lactate threshold is the point at which our heart and our lungs, as well as our muscles working together, can't clear the waste products or lactate from our body. Now this graph here shows someone's speed that they're running and their blood lactate. And what we can see is exactly where their lactate threshold is right at that point. Pretty cool, hey? Now there are 2 ways that we can increase our lactate threshold. The first is to increase the strength of our aerobic system so it can supply more oxygen to these working muscles. Because like I mentioned before, more oxygen equals a higher threshold. This generally is why building your aerobic base is super important. And I have great news for you. If you're running consistently, you're probably already improving this. So great job. Now the second way to improve our lactate threshold is a little bit more interesting. It's all about improving our capacity to clear this lactate from our muscle. Like I mentioned earlier, this lactate has to be cleared from our muscles for us to continue exercising. So during our training, we have to get ourselves up to that point where we're producing lactate and then stopping and letting our body clear it. So we start to develop this ability to clear lactate really quickly. So here's how you can find your lactate threshold: by doing a 1-hour time trial. The average pace that you can hold for an hour is going to be surprisingly close to what you would actually get in a lab test. And so we'll use that to complete our training sessions. So here are the training sessions that I did. 10 times 1 kilometer at this 1-hour race pace time, with a 30-second break in between each rep. And the second session is 5 times 2 kilometers at this same hour race pace, but this time with a 1-minute break in between each rep. Now the key to these workouts is that the intensity is high enough to produce lactate and the rest is short enough to boost that lactate clearing system into gear. Because if the rest time's too long, it's just too easy for your body to clear this lactate. And training like this has helped me get my threshold pace from 420 per kilometer all the way down to 343 per kilometer. But I'll touch on these paces a little bit later in the video. Now, clearly these threshold workouts are quite long, so you're gonna need this next tip to make sure that you're not getting too fatigued in your workouts. Without this next tip, everything that we've talked about in this video so far will completely fall apart. And yes, I'm talking about nutrition. Now, I won't be getting too deep into what you should be eating day to day, because that's just out of the scope of this video. But I'll specifically be addressing what you should be eating pre, during, and post workout to make sure that you're maximizing your gains. Now, we've all been in this situation before when you go out for a long run, probably no longer than any other, but for some reason you're just super tired and fatigued and you start to get really hungry. And it's always after those sessions that you feel really sore and really depleted. And I'm gonna explain why. Your muscles have like a bank vault of carbohydrates stored inside them that can be used during exercise. And when we are running, we slowly burn through this bank vault of carbohydrates, even at slower paces. When these stores of carbohydrates drop too low, our body can actually switch to protein synthesis for energy. And that's where I think we're getting a lot of our muscular soreness after workouts that we haven't fueled. So here's how I ate around my training to ensure I rarely got any muscular soreness. Number one, I never trained fasted to ensure that I wasn't tapping into these carbohydrate stores too much and dropping them too low. Number two, I always consumed calories in workouts that were longer than my easy runs at about 50 minutes. I did this by consuming gels or sports drinks or other carbohydrate-rich products. And number three, I replenished my carbohydrates as soon as I finished my run so that I would be ready for my session the next day. Okay, so the one thing that I didn't do this entire time, and that's take a day off. You're not allowed to take any days off. Let me explain. There is always something that you can be doing to push yourself towards your half marathon goal. And it doesn't always have to be running. It can be recovering, it can be foam rolling and stretching, it could be strength and conditioning sessions. It can even be watching YouTube videos like this to learn how to train a little bit smarter. So here's what I did outside of my running time. I worked on my weaknesses and improved my form. I got in as much good nutrition as I could to make sure that I was recovering well. I tried to get to bed a little bit earlier each night. I did ice baths and ice packs when I felt like I needed to. And I read heaps of books on how to get faster at running. So yes, you can take days off, but I'm sure you can find 5 or 10 minutes on your days off that's gonna continue to improve your running. Now, if you wanna know what you need to do to run a 1:20 half marathon, then here are all of my paces that I was running in training that you can compare to your own to see if a 1:20 half marathon is on the cards. My easy running varied from 4:40s to 4:50s per kilometer. And generally speaking, these easy runs were at a conversational pace. And if I could be bothered wearing my heart rate monitor on that day, it would be anywhere from 130 to 143 beats per minute. My threshold pace was anywhere from 340 to 345 per kilometer, but generally if the temperature was good and there wasn't too much wind, it was about 343. And my 10K time during this block was 36:15, and my 5K time during this block was 17:45. So if you're pretty close to those paces, then get ready to have a red hot crack on race day. Now, if you're wanting to get started on this more longer term process of building towards that half marathon PB, I recently put up a video about how to design a 10K training block that you can start with so that you can build your momentum towards that huge half marathon goal. So go watch that. It's pretty good.